Greetings, everyone. You're listening to the Poetry Emotion podcast, and I am Angela C. Wood. I'd like to thank you for taking the time to listen to my podcasts, where I will be presenting classic poets and poems, and I'll be introducing collective poems from current poets, and I'll be treating you to some poems I have been inspired to write. So here's a quote for you. The moments in time when you realise these are the moments. So I'd like to introduce to you the classic poet in this podcast is Bradsheet, aka Dudley. I'll drop the link below if you'd like some more information about her. Anne was born in 1612 in Northampton, England. She emigrated to Massachusetts with her father, Thomas Dudley, and her husband, Simon Bradsheet. She was America's first English poet, and her poems were published in London without her prior knowledge by her brother-in-law under the title of The 10th Muse. The poem I have chosen to regale to you today is Lesson about the vanity of earthly possessions. Anne was an educated woman and had a book collection of over 800 in her personal library. So this poem would be very significant for her personal collection. The poem is called Upon the Burning of Our House. In silent night, when rest I took, for sorrow near I did not look, I wakened was with thundering noise, and piteous shrieks of dreadful voice. That fearful sound of fire and fire, let no man know is my desire. I started up, the light did spy, and to my God my heart did cry, to straiten me in my distress, and not to leave me succourless. Then coming out, behold a space, the flame consume my dwelling place. And when I could no longer look, I blessed his name that gave and took, that laid my goods now in the dust. Yea, so it was, and so 'twas just. It was his own, it was not mine, far be it that I should repine. He might of all justly bereft, but yet sufficient for us left. When by the ruins oft I passed, my sorrowing eyes aside did cast, and here and there the places spy, where oft I sate and long did lie. Here stood that trunk, and there that chest, there lay that store I counted best. My pleasant things in ashes lie, and them behold no more shall I. Under thy roof no guest shall sit, nor at thy table eat a bit. No pleasant talk shall e'er be told, nor things recounted done of old. No candle e'er shall shine in thee, nor bridegroom's voice e'er heard shall be. In silence ever thou shalt lie. Addio, addio, all's vanity. Then straight I gin my heart to chide, and did thy wealth on earth abide. Didst fix thy hope on mouldering dust, the arm of flesh didst make thy trust. Raise up thy thoughts above the sky, that dunghill mists away may fly. Thou hast a house on high erect, framed by that mighty architect, with glory richly furnished, stands permanent though this be fled. It's purchased and paid for too, by him who hath enough to do, a price so vast as is unknown, yet by his gift is made thine own. There's wealth enough, I need no more. Farewell my pelf, farewell my store. The world no longer let me love, my hope and treasure lies above. So there you have a poem that Anne writes about a disaster. And as you know, that poetry can be anything. It's so diverse. We can write about how we feel. We can write about our desires, our loves, our hates. We can write about anything in poetry that we so choose. And that's why it's such a great way to get things down. Let people hear your words. And so now I'm going to introduce Ellis Unchained. He writes in all styles of poetry, but he is significantly good at haiku. He left school without any qualifications, and after years of being lost, he joined the infantry. He completed a tour in Afghanistan and was medically discharged in 2015. He started writing just over a year ago and fell in love with poetry. In the short time, he's published his first anthology, Life After Waking, and he's won the World Humanitarian Drive COVID-19 Poetry Award. He has alternative interests in ways of living, psychology, and philosophy. Ellis is prolific at haiku, and he has an anthology on his webpage, which I will link below. I have tried haiku, which is a form of Japanese poetry in the styles, which is 3-line poems. The first line has 3 syllables, the second line has 5 syllables, and the third line has 3 syllables. There's tanka, which is also Japanese verse, and this has 5 lines. The first line is 5 syllables, the second line is 7 syllables, the third line is 5 syllables, and then lines 4 and 5 are 7 syllables. I have tried haiku and I've tried tanka, and I must say I am not very good at it. My style of poetry are stanzas, and the poem I'd like to present to you today from Ellis is also a stanza style poem. Although there's many styles of stanza, you can have 4 lines, 6 lines, 2 lines. You can have it rhyming, you can have it not rhyming, you can have the first and the third rhyme lining, you can have them all rhyming. So there's really a lot of choice in writing stanzas. So I present to you Dangerous Games by Ellis Robinson. Here we go again, piling misery, creating divides through terror and pain. Chaos, out the gates of oblivion, a perpetual breeze. Does it ever end? The kingpins you follow freely, surging to new levels by virtue of personal gains. They sit dynamic, feeding and fattening on the energy you pay. Are we forgetting the last campaign? Maximum fear now proves lame. Proof is in the blood pudding. No one genuinely cares. Operation Julius Caesar, divide and conquer. Simple, while masses run insane. Brothers and sisters, you're playing into their hands. I'm tired and bored of repeating. History repeats itself. It's time for new campaigns. Throughout history, we fight for them, now each other for the same. The new iPhone, stick it in your orifice, as the world divides and children starve. For what? Cash? Acceptance? A career? Oh my, all that work and then we die. Remember the extraordinary number of deaths from playing these games. Please remember, we all bleed the same. Black, white, and anything in between. Our hearts beat in rhythm at the moment to the tune of misery and pain. A new tune to waltz to, equalness and love. Does this not make you into those heroes? Portrayed on the screen, sitting pretty, while your mind loses control. So I'd like to thank Ellis Robinson for submitting that poem and letting me read it in this podcast. So if there are any classic poems you'd like me to read on my podcast, please check out my website. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for. My poetry. So the first poem I'd like to read for you is called Nan. And I came up with the idea of this one when I was sat outside my public house, just watching people, because I like doing that. I was munching on a bag of chips and I heard this couple arguing. One was saying, "Oh, you're so lazy," and the other one was saying, "Yeah, but you're even lazier than I am." And I'm sat there thinking, wow, do we do this? And then the thoughts came to my head. I didn't have anything to write it on, so I wrote it on my chip paper. This was the second poem that I had liberty to write, because the first poem I ever wrote was several years previous to this moment. And it was about an ornament I'd bought for my previous partner. And it was Faces in a Tree. It was quite an exquisite piece. And I really, really liked it myself. I called the poem Faces in the Tree. And if I recollect properly, it starts with, "The faces in the tree. What do I see?" I can't remember the particulars of the rest of the poem because it was a long time ago, but at the time I was hanging around with friends who I thought were friends, and I was excited that I'd written this poem. And so I read it to them and they laughed. No, literally, they did. They laughed in my face. So I immediately ripped it up and I didn't write anything after that until the moment when I was sat outside the public house. And it wasn't until that moment that I realised, well, do you know what? I really like writing poetry. And if they were real friends, they would support me. Fortunately for me, my circumstances changed and those friends that were then friends are no longer friends now. And the friends that I do have encourage and support me immensely with their exceptional words of encouragement. So without further ado, here she is, Nan. Her ageless face in time is set, waiting is fulfilled. So she floats, her essence gone, memories will not be quilled. I wrote it in hindsight of the death of my nan some previous years before, and only just realising how much I missed her. So because that one was such a short one, I thought I would gift you with a second poem in this podcast, and I've called this one Shrug. A poem rhymes, should it not, filled in with words long forgot. A way to show how we feel, to express something is a big deal. Oh, I feel sorrow and I felt shame, but isn't it all the same? The way we handle life's little woes, but hey, the big ones, shrug, who knows? There are no rules on how to live, and only we know how to forgive. But do we really ever share, or do we really ever care? I want, I need. It only started as a seed. We nurture, feed and watch it grow. But in the end, what do we know? In this journey we choose to take, we gather memories and feelings make. A small soul in the essence of mess. We all make it, more or less. As you can see, I've always liked rhythm and rhyme because I find those kind of poems really easy to write. I have tried other poems like blank verse, and I tried a sonnet once. Once. So here I have a quote, and this one is from Bradsheet. If we had no winter, the spring would not be so pleasant. If we did not sometimes taste of adversity, prosperity would not be so welcome. We've come to the end of this podcast, but I will be excited to share some more poetry. I do have a Patreon page if you would like to update when I release new podcasts, where I will have monthly bonuses, one of which will be an interview with the poet who's on the podcast, and the other bonus is a poem from my current collection, Inspirate. So if you'd like these little tidbits, then check out the link below. I hope you found some inspiration in the words that I have shared with you, and that you take the time to listen to the next one. If there are any of you who wish to share some of your poetry and would partake of a 5-minute interview, please visit my website. If you could be what you want to be, would you be yourself? If you could be who you want to be, would you share your wealth? If you could be who you want to be, would you be the one? If you could be who you want to be, who would you become? Safe journey, fellow warriors. See you in the next one.